quality talk. I don't know.
We are back here at the Tapu 2. Actually, today, it's not the Tapu 2, is it? It's the Tapu 3. It's the Tapu 3. Herbs, welcome back, brother. And Max, so awesome to have you here this morning, bro. And the celeb of the week is... Michael Jackson!
Come on, let's talk about celebs, baby.
The impact that guy has had on music, even a decade or 2 decades almost after his passing, is pretty incredible, eh?
Has it really been that long since he died?
Yeah, just as I said that. He died in... Okay, it's got to be a decade. Is it a decade?
It can't have been 10 years.
It's definitely 10 years. When I remembered his court trial, to be honest, that actually is more vivid in my memory than his death. And honestly, that's why I'm getting it mixed up, because I remember actually where I was sitting when he was in the courtroom and they were reading out his the verdict of that huge trial, which we all know about, and him in Neverland Ranch and all of those, all of the children throughout the years that would come through and sort of talk about, what old MJ was allegedly doing. But he was found not guilty in the end, right?
Mm-hmm. When I think of Michael Jackson and I look back, I have to go back to the 80s to when I was a kid. And the impact that Michael Jackson had on me. So like the first VHS video that I ever got, I'm not sure if anyone out there remembers VHS. This is before DVDs, guys, and digital format.
I remember,
but
bro. I remember.
My first ever VHS, my mum got from the hoko hoko shop, the second-hand shop, and it was Thriller. That was my first ever VHS, and then the second VHS was New Kids on the Block. So, mate, Michael Jackson, the impact that he had, like from the Pepsi. When I think back, I think the Pepsi ad. I saw him all over the advertising everywhere, and it was the Pepsi ad, and it was it was Bad. Bad was a great song, and when he danced on the cobbles to Beat It.
Yeah.
And then we got Billie Jean, and I was just like, so for me, I don't remember. I actually can't even remember why he went to court in the last days of his life. But the things I do remember, the stuff that was far more impactful was his music and his music videos. So music video back in the day when I was growing up was the thing. When you had a mad music video, you had the support of the people. And then I remember watching the girls going to his concerts and fainting, and I was like, "Whoa, what's this about? What's this? What special powers has this guy got? Where people just kind of like and they're all over and they're all done." I'm just like, I like this guy's music's really good, but what is that about? When he started having babies and getting into relationships, that's when we started seeing them. Again, we've talked about the media in the past, and the media have a way to portray people, and they portrayed him when they were making money off him, and he was in their headlights. He was the king of pop. When they were making money off him in the bad sections of his life, he was a child molester.
I remember going around my cousins when I was younger. He was a little bit older than me, and he literally had, exactly like you said, all the tapes of all of his music videos and stuff like that. And that's like my earliest thing of seeing all these they're like films, like big shows, aren't they? His music videos were like something like next level stuff. It was good. That's like my earliest memories of it.
You were talking about the fainting people. My mum, she was one of those. So I remember being about 8, 9, and the only concert my mum ever went to was a Michael Jackson concert, bro, and she became one of those fans, man. Like,
wow.
She would play the soundtrack, Thriller, like all the time, and it was an obsession, bro. It was an obsession. I remember dancing in the lounge with like my dad's leather jacket, pretending I was Michael Jackson. So it's it's crazy. I'll show you.
When I was at primary school, bro, and so we used to go to youth clubs and have sleepovers and whatnot. Or you like, and they'll have these competitions, and everybody wanted to dress up like Michael Jackson, bro, with their one glove. What's up, dogs?
What's up, docs? It's been 20 years since September 11. You know, I can remember the exact place that I was in boarding school, and you know what? Funny enough, this is actually linked into the only other time I've punched somebody. I'm not a fighter, guys. This is crazy. It's a crazy story that's linked to this. I punched somebody and I was in my 5th form. We were in the boarding house and there was the TV at the front of the room. And one of the seniors, he was a bully, and he was standing in front of the TV while we were all trying to watch the news because we had just woken up about to go to school. And he turned on the TV and the towers were on smoke. They were on smoke and we're like, what the heck is going on? We're all there, like about 50 of us. And this bully's standing in front of the TV. And I'm like, can you move so we can watch the TV? He wouldn't move. And you know the pressure's on because I challenged him. I was like, I had to say it again. I was like, oh, can you move so we can watch the news? I was like 2 years younger. And he's like, come here and say that. Oh, you know when someone says, come here and say I'm like, what am I going to do? And I just felt everyone's faces go. Like the whole room just turned to me and I'm like, fuck, what am I going to do? So I just stood up and I just walked over to him. Dink! I felt bad. That's a separate story. But that's where I was. I remember that day for those 2 reasons.
Yeah, I remember that. Literally, my memory's not that good either. And I remember being in that, driving through Folkestone and just being told by my mum then, just trying to work out the scale of it from what she said.
We watched it, and it happened the night before, but we watched the morning stuff. Yeah,
You're watching the morning, okay? And so for me, I saw it live on the news. I think it was like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and I remember I just got home. I'd have been in the club or something like that. I can't remember. And I remember just switching the TV on, and I thought that it was a movie. One of those not reality movies, but one of those movies where like there's a few movies where they make it look like it's real, like there's an alien invasion, that kind of thing. And so I thought that's what it was. I was watching a movie because I just switched the TV and I was like, oh, what's this? And then to me it looked like it was a movie that was going on, and it, I couldn't quite it took my focus. I had to kind of just stand there for ages, and then I sat there and then I watched and I was like, this isn't a movie, this is happening. And then when the first tower fell, I was just like, what the hell's going on? I was like, what's happening? And then the second tower, I was just like, and I was transfixed, bro. I couldn't take my face off what was going on. Like I was watching, just thinking to myself, what's just happened? Those are massive buildings. And I didn't know anything really about New York other than the Eiffel Tower and Empire State Building. It gave me a feeling of vulnerability at that moment in time. And yeah, I just couldn't stop watching it. So every day I'd switch on the news and see what else was going on, and then there would be more updates, and then you saw that planes flew into the building, and it's like, oh wow,
that changed things up. Like you're talking about that vulnerability thing, which I definitely felt as well, because there was nothing ever that you'd witnessed like that in your childhood. But then that took things to another level. When you saw a plane, like, oh, I remember thinking, man, accident. Oh shucks, like it didn't even click to my head about terrorism and all of that stuff, even though that's what ended up happening. But seeing those images, I don't know, I can't really put words to what happened, how I felt once I saw that, because that took things to another level, right? When you saw a plane, like a freaking 747, fly into a building.
I think if I move away from the topic just slightly, so my mum's anniversary of her death is on September 11th, so I can't forget September 11th either way. So yeah, it's a constant reminder. So she dropped in 2006. So, but I was like, the towers fell for real, and my tower fell because my mum went. So I was like, and I went through like 6 months of depression. It took me a year. I think as we're relating to this, when Mum died, it took me a year to process it, and I would dream about it almost every night. And then but I went through a depression. It's the only time in my life I've ever gone through a depression and had this cloud over my head, and I just couldn't shift it. In fact, it got so bad that if I was in public and I went into a space where there was people, I literally ran out the door to run away because the depression was so hard on me. I couldn't handle it. But somehow, man. I don't even remember how I navigated through it. And I just remember one day, I think 6 months later, I was in the car, I think with my missus, and then I felt the cloud just lift.
Wow.
It just went away, and then my depression left. I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that I wasn't processing my emotions at all correctly.
Yeah.
I thought I was, but I wasn't.
No, I just wanted to ask, because you talked, you said something about a year in your mourning, and like I know for a fact that a year in a lot of cultures is kind of like a designated time period for mourning. Was that like obviously it wasn't a choice, it just happened for you, but it's interesting just to hear you say it was a year.
I think like what you said about people doing that for a year, it's just accepting that for a year, isn't it? And being with it rather than putting that resistance up, and you're battling that for longer and longer because you're resisting that mourning process and stuff like that. Like we all try and rush it through, really. Do you know what I mean? Like people are like, if anything's ever prolonged or they almost, I don't know, it sounds bad, but they just want to put people in the ground and put it to bed. Does that make sense? Like when they then want to bury them and stuff, whereas I think they're like, oh, well, it's just putting it to bed then, and then we can stop. Whereas they're not like if it's a week or 2 weeks, that's never long. If you've lost someone, a loved one or something, do you know what I mean? And I feel that that's there. Like you do need to, and obviously we'll touch on this, but I've learned you just need to be and understand your emotions and feel with it and let yourself have time if you're going to grieve and stuff like that, and sit with it and let it pass, rather than trying to be like, oh, well, we've put it to bed now, we were sad, blah, 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 broken, whatever, because you will be. And then they just try and move on and then wonder why, I don't know, they've got some anger issues down the line, or they're just falling out with their relationships and stuff, comes back hidden with a mask on as something else. I've probably been guilty of it as well. You almost want to get to the funeral and stuff like that to say your byes, and then you expect to walk off within 2 weeks or something, and I don't know, live your life with someone for 20, 30 odd years or whatever it may be, and then expect to say goodbye in 2 weeks and be off and back on your normal one.
You're thinking about grieving, and you're thinking, okay, it goes even beyond funerals. Like we grieve a lot of times in life. And there's a lot of times we can do that, like not process things the way that we actually should and give ourselves the right amount of time. Because like you said, man, things can come back in life in a different form. Shucks, and if you don't have the support, or you don't have the tools, you don't have the know-how, man, it can be a downward spiral.
Bro, that's like a robber. You're leaving your house open, bro, and a robber comes in with a mask on. Every time to rob your house of your joy and of your peace.
That's it.
And that's a great metaphor. That's a really great metaphor to use, I think, also when helping someone through it. Because I think, for me, metaphors work, man. Sometimes all the jargon and stuff doesn't work for me, but when I hear something like that...
See it in a picture format, bro?
You see it in that picture and you go... Because a mask is... You can't see what's behind it, too. So there's a process of I need to take that mask off so I can see what that's about. That's good. I'm gonna put that one down.
Yes, I've logged that one. I'm gonna be using it whenever I come across anything. Say, hey, are you letting the thief come and steal your joy and your peace, mate? Why don't you tell him take your mask off and then get a hammer and put it on his head? It doesn't matter what you think.
It doesn't matter what you think. Yay! Psychedelic drugs.
Oh, just straight in there to the jugular again.
I've taken DMT once. I was literally like held down. So I wasn't in my room anymore. I was just sort of like in a nothingness. And all the, I don't know, it's like all these shapes and colours. But I knew it was like a being or a not a person, but like a, well, yeah, like a person, but just made up of, like, not human, basically, is what I'm saying. And they was like holding me down and just went through like this little weird thing of like being held down, but then like dancing at the same time, like loads of like arms and stuff like this. Yeah, and then come back round to laying on my bed. Well, it seemed longer than it did, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? I felt like I was in it for a while, and then but like in reality, if you like, or in real time, it wasn't long at all.
So did someone time it for you? Like how long the experience was?
No, I was on my own. So like just
You did that on your own.
Like,
you freaking weirdo.
Yeah.
I need support myself, bro. Like I'm that kind of guy that would take something and then I'd be trying to be Superman.
I just felt like a real sense of calm. Do you know what I mean? Like a stillness. Like even after, I just felt a bit like, yeah, I felt good.
And you and I have talked about the ego, but they say that you with taking DMT you challenge the ego, or there's a space where the ego becomes distant from who you are. I wanted to try the South American version, the ayahuasca, or however you pronounce it.
Yeah, ayahuasca.
Ayahuasca. Then Oscar de la Hoya. Then there's that version, but there's also the psychedelic with the mushrooms. And there was studies going on. I'm sure over here in the UK, but in Europe, where they were trialing people who suffer with depression by using DMT or the psychedelics as a healing product to get people through traumas and whatnot. So I'm definitely keen on giving DMT a shot. We look at all these natural formed drugs, but they're natural formed anything. So they're plants, they're roots, they're leaves, and they're demonized for, and yet we're taking synthetic drugs to help our lives, and those are legal. It's a fun and interesting topic because, come on, like this stuff was around before the doctors were around and made the rules to make things legal and illegal. Yeah, and people have been using these for centuries who are out in the bush.
Definitely,
if not millennia.
Now we've been watching some documentaries. Me and my fiance, she's studying herbalism, and so she's like diving deep into the world of sort of natural remedies and the things that we've, like you just said, the things as a species, as human species, that we've veered away from because of the pharmaceutical industry. But last night in particular, we watched just a documentary following about 3 or 4 people that had some real bad childhood trauma and manifested into anxiety and depression and lots of other, a few other types of personality disorders. And they went to see like certain practitioners that would use psychedelics as a method, as a tool. But a lot of them are struggling to get the support because they can't even get the regulation. Like science, even the science can't be supported because if there's not the regulation in the country, there's no money to go towards the research. So there are a lot of people in the know out there ready to sort of delve into this world of how can we use psychedelics in mental health. But it's probably going to come down to a couple of countries that lead the way in doing that. But then even so, I mean, it's hard to stay away from conspiracy, Like, it's all about keeping people sick, right? Like, it seems it seems like that's actually a really, especially with mental health, like the mind is so complex, and it seems like when you use a psychedelic, like I've used mushrooms before and had an experience like that, it opens up a side to your brain that if it's done in the right amount and in the right space, you can see how definitely it would work. Me and my partner, we took some mushrooms, and we had a couple of trips, and I realize now why they call it trips, because throughout a day you can have sort of really intense experiences, like a few of them throughout the day, and you in that trip, and sometimes you like actually have crazy revelations within that trip, and you might just be walking to the shop. But this one was that I'll share about. We were going to have sex, right? Because we heard that if you have sex while taking psychedelics, it can be freaking amazing.
And then you had the worst sex ever.
We've shared a little bit about this before in our past. Like, I've got past sexual trauma from when I was a child.
Yeah.
And we were about to have sex, and she was on top. And something happened in this moment where I looked up at her, and her face transformed into like a bat or a Dracula. I froze, and I, in my mind at that point in time, was like, "It's okay, it's all good. I'm just going to carry on with it because this is my partner. We're going to have sex. We're all good." Anyway, she at the same time looked down at me, and she stopped. She got off, and I was like, "Hey, what's wrong?" Because it's not like when you're drunk, you're out of it. You're still like fully able to function. And she felt an overwhelming sense of power that she didn't like, and so she got off. And I shared exactly what I had gone through in that moment. I said, I felt an overwhelming sense of power from you, but I let you. I was about to let you keep going, and we wept, bro. We broke down, and I realized in that moment too what that meant for me in life. So in the third instance where I was abused as a child was a real grooming process from the person in power. He was about 18.
Wow. Yeah.
And I was about 8 or 9, and I really trusted this guy. And he had that power over me, but I let him, and I had a real naivety about me as a child. I was quite naive.
Bro, but you're a child, and this person's bigger than you, and they're stronger than you.
Exactly.
And you trust them, so, this isn't you. You know that anyway.
No, yeah, exactly, brother, exactly. But I know that sort of throughout my life, I've had a problem with letting people, even though I can see them having the power over me, I let them take from me. And in that moment, that's actually what happened. And I sort of, and I've heard this too, that you have a life-changing moment sometimes with psychedelics. I realized that in my life and going forward, I needed to stop doing that. I needed to, in the moment that I know someone is taking advantage, I need to stand up and I need to put a stop to it. So it was also a huge moment of trust too, because my missus could have just taken it. She could have been like, she could have ridden that, no pun intended. But she also stopped because she saw that. So It's crazy, man. Like, even though I'm trying my...
She was connected to you that much that she understood what was going on with her. So when you say you froze, did you froze like that? and when she had to get off, did she have to climb? It's all about me. And today it's not all about me or Nick. It's about our guest, Max. Really, we're going to cover the topic of suicide.
In 2019, it was a Wednesday, so I'll talk you through the day. I've been put on antidepressants for a good few months and felt like I was just getting worse and worse. So I woke up on this Wednesday morning, and I just knew that was the day that I was going to do my overdose. So I had all these like sedatives, sleeping tablets that was given to me because I couldn't sleep, part of like all the depression stuff that the doctor had given me. And I hadn't taken any of them, and I knew they were in my cupboard. But anyway, so I woke up on the Wednesday and I knew that was going to be the day that I took my overdose. yeah, I got myself up. I went to work. I had a couple of PT clients in Ashford, so I went and done them. And then saw a few of my close friends. And then my mum come up, so I texted her. She come and met me. Went and had a coffee with my mum. Just sort of checked in, so see how she was. Like, she's been through a lot. She's with her new boyfriend. Well, I say new boyfriend. They've been together a while now, but she was happy. I almost like just checked in to see if she was happy, basically. Yeah, so, and she was happy. Everything was good with my mum. Then went and went back to work, had another couple of PT sessions. Then went out and met my friend for a drink, and then drive home. And I just knew that was it. So then I got myself back indoors, and the tablets were in like 2 blisters, so split in half. So I took all of one of the blisters, went upstairs, grabbed that, went downstairs, took all of them, and then just started like leaving some messages to like my closest people. And then I thought that's probably not going to be enough tablets, so I went back upstairs, took the other half of these tablets, took all of them, and then I could just feel my body like starting to shut down, like feel really heavy and starting to like almost like seize up, like from up here I could feel it all like over my shoulders and everything starting to come down. And then luckily I accidentally, because I was getting a bit disorientated, called my friend Andy by accident instead of sending my message. And he had knew I'd been low. And basically he saved my life, basically. Come down to my house, rushed down to my house. And then I was in a coma for a little bit because I just had to run through what I'd taken, so they'd done what they could do in the hospital.
Wow.
So that was the day that took my overdose, basically. So it's like 56 tablets I'd taken.
Bro.
What's really powerful about that, my brother, is the fact that almost like how you said your goodbyes to everyone.
Yeah.
And that you had come to terms with what you were about to do. That it's quite impacting for me emotionally, because I'm just like, wow. And even at that moment in time, bro, it's almost like no one could have said anything to prevent you from taking your journey.
I'm not sure. Like, I could have been swayed quite a lot, but that day there was nothing in a million years that would have swayed me any other way than what I was doing. That was like it. The whole day was all. As soon as I woke up, was like almost programmed. It was structured to happen how it happened, if that makes sense.
What was interesting, which I remember vividly, was I think it must have been either a week or two before before the overdose, that we had that experience in the gym where someone touched your shoulder.
It was after. No, because I was back and you was checking in on me just to see how like everything had been. Because I'd been to your house in between my overdose and this, the hand on my shoulder or the touch on my shoulder. So we'd obviously caught up after my overdose and everything, and then I was back to work, and then you had come in and we was having a little chat. I literally remember it because it's still like, but I was up against the wall here, and you was in front of me chatting away, and we was obviously chatting about like my overdose and my mental health and stuff like that, and then I felt this, and obviously you was in front of me away, so you couldn't have touched me with a full reach anyway, and I looked round because there's no one there, so then the only rational thing that I could think of was Herb, that wasn't in arm's reach, saying, "Did you just touch me on my shoulder?" even though I was facing you, talking to you. So I was like making eye contact with you. I'd have seen if you touched my shoulder. But yeah.
And that was hilarious. And then we went through the discussion.
Far out, man.
We went through the discussion, Nick and everybody listening, that Max goes, "Did you touch me?" And I go, "How can I touch you? I'm standing right in front of you and I'm looking at you. And we were at distance. It's not like I could reach around and touch you." And his back was to the wall. And then I said to him, "Well, it's not the first time that my angels touch someone." And because
You said that?
I've had it on I've had it on a few occasions where my angels touched. touch people. Yeah, yeah.
Far out, man. Wow.
But yeah, so it's cool because Max isn't religious by any means, and I had to take him through a process my angel touches people when they're near me sometimes, and has like hugged people, like physically hugged people, and they felt like someone's like hugging them. They're like, "What's going on?" I said, "Oh, my angel's giving you a hug," and I don't know why, but he's giving you a hug. But it freaked him out so much that 8 hours later, he calls me up. He called me up 8 hours later, and he's like, "Bro, can you just be honest?"
I'm still trying to process it in my head.
8 hours later, he calls me up and goes, "Bro, can you just be honest? Did you touch me?"
Oh,
I'm like,
that's
Max.
awesome.
I'm standing catching him going, "Max, how the hell can I touch you? We already went through this." I said it was my angel who touched you, and he goes, "Oh, okay. I just wanted to double check that it wasn't you." I said, "Max, I was standing in front of you. How was it not? It can't be me."
Oh, man. I'm just sitting here listening and processing it myself, man, and taking all of that in, bro. First of all, bro, I'm so glad you failed. I've never been so happy to
see someone fail.
To see someone fail. Kirby just said before, you're not religious in any way, or maybe you have some sort of belief, but you weren't then. Like, you went from wanting to end your life and almost succeeding at that, recovering, having that sort of experience. What was your outlook like on life after that?
Well, when I woke up to see how many people, and it was like just a fraction of the people that I'd affected with trying to kill myself being around my bed. That was like a real like whoa, because in the middle of like all the depression and stuff, like there's just me. Like there's a picture I had on my phone, and there was this lad looking out towards this big lake, and all you can see is him and pretty much nothing. It's obviously a lake, but there's nothing, and that pretty much like represented like how I felt. Do you know what I mean? I was that lad on the edge of this lake with like nothing there. That's how I felt. Anyway, so I woke up and I had all these people around there, and like my uncle and auntie had been up, and like other people had been up, and then they'd gone home and stuff like this. But and then I had to speak to like some professionals and stuff like this about obviously how I was feeling, why did I do it, all that. It's the weirdest feeling. So having all these people there really worried about you, and then you get back home and they're like, "Oh, you're home now," and everybody goes.
Wow.
Everybody's gone because you're back home now. I mean, people like my mum stayed at my house for a little bit and then went home, and then like my friend stayed over and stuff like this. But you go from the lad on the lake, yeah, then take an overdose, to then have all these people around there who care for you, to then gone again. And I think when I got back home, I was still crying loads, and like I was really broken then because I couldn't even kill myself. Do you know what I mean? Like I really like that was my ticket out, or what I thought was my ticket out. That was going to be it, and I couldn't even fucking do that. Do you know what I mean? And then that kicked me again when I was down. I think because I was thinking, fuck, I couldn't even do that. And then to see my mum, who I love dearly, and like my brother and stuff like this, being that broken. Like now I'm trapped because now I don't want to see them like that, but I don't want to be here. When I got back home, I was probably worse than before I took my overdose.
Yeah, so it was a huge process of moving through that then. Yeah, man.
I think because I'd seen like my mum and my brother and stuff like this broken. I mean, there was a load of people hurt by what I'd done, but obviously like my immediate family were the ones that I've tried being like the man of the house for years because it's just been us three. I felt like I took that role. So to then see the man of the house then put the people he's like trying to look after in that thing, I just thought I needed to make a go of trying to make the difference for myself, I think, as well. Do you know what I mean? Or just try and push on a little bit further. And it has been a massive process. It's only been, I don't even know what it's been, like 2 years? Is that, 2 years?
Coming up to 2 years, on the 18th.
And I do still struggle. I'll have some times where I feel a bit shit and all the rest of it, but it's been a long journey, and I think I've learned there's like a few things I've learned. Like I needed to slow down, like literally force myself to be comfortable in my own presence. So I'm not always on the go, so I don't think about who I am.
Yeah.
And I spoke. I think the biggest thing as well. I spoke to Herb, or we've spoken about this a few times. Like I think that overdose killed the ego that I had created, literally from secondary school and younger probably. I don't know. The ego was the person that I created that wanted to be liked. That I used to go out drinking all the time with everybody, and being it just created this person that I wasn't. Like, I don't mind having a drink, but I'm not one for going out clubbing and all this other stuff. And I was getting into fights all the time because I'd never talk about how I was feeling. And do you know what I mean? This person was then created, and that's who Max then was.
That mask you were talking about before, that mask sort of
Yeah,
person. Yeah.
yeah. And then he died when I took my overdose, basically.
Yeah, man.
And I think from that point, I started living my life as the
Yeah.
man you see today. Do you know what I mean?
We talked about the self that we create for society to see us, the self that's been constructed by our upbringing, our thought processes, and everything, and how you behave, and how people see you. So there's the constructed self, and then there's the true self, and the true self doesn't care what anyone thinks. The true self loves thyself. The true self knows thyself. The true self is your real identity. But many people spend their life within the second identity, which is this projected self, which is
Fighting it.
Yeah, and fighting their true self. So if we were to kind of just sit here with our eyes closed and we were to ask ourselves a genuine question, which many people could do, their constructed self would answer the question in their mind, and the true self would be answering the question as well. But the true self is like a whisper, and the constructed self is like a screaming toddler that's flying around the floor, being like throwing a tantrum, and we can only seem to hear the constructed self or the ego doing its thing.
Just hearing you talk, Max, bro, is like I believe in rebirth. Even if you steer away from a religious type of explaining it, it sounds like you had a rebirth, and it sounds like that makes sense why you felt that way, even when you came to, like it was still really tough for you, because there is still a little bit of resistance. But like Herbie said, you still had a choice where you could have done that again, but because your ego was reborn or your true self was coming through, you sort of have worked with that, and you got through it, and you're here where you are today.
I think a lot of there was nowhere to hide as well. Like when I'd clearly taken an overdose because I was clearly struggling, and I hadn't spoke about it too much before. So then you're in a situation where now everybody knows that you were depressed or you were struggling. So if then someone said, "Oh, how you feeling? Yeah, I'm all right." Well, are you? Do you know what I mean? Like you ask someone, "How you feeling?" "Yeah, I'm good." "Oh, good." And that's it. Whereas like, "Oh, are you?" So I've just carried on. Like I talk all the time now, and like I think me talking about it helps me. But if it can help just one or two people, then that's fine. Then maybe that's why I survived, to help people talk about their mental health, and do you know what I mean? Help make them think that there is a way through it and it can be a bit better.
What keeps you here now, Max?
I don't know. I've just found, I don't know. There's beauty in every day. Do you know what I mean? Like every day is like I don't know. I don't take it for granted anymore. Like just like I said, like slowing down and take the dog for a walk, and like that's one way to keep yourself really present. And all you care about is maybe that hour walk. And like, I live right on the coast, and I'll always take him down the
Yeah.
beach. And no matter what the weather is, like being down by the seaside, like it's pretty epic. Do you know what I mean? And not just to see, but meeting new people, and I don't know. I just enjoy life a lot more now because I haven't got that weight of Max, the ego, on my shoulders, or that big cloud. I've seemed to have gone through that. try and talk. There's always people there. Even like you don't even have to talk to people that like your family or immediate circle. Like try and find some circles to talk within and stuff like that, and try and slow down. Everybody lives life at like 300 mile an hour now, don't they? We wake up, we've got an hour to get ready, and then we've got to go to work, and then we're going to go to the gym, or do you know what I mean? Everything's like really structured, and like taking some time to just slow down and like go for a walk, or I don't know, go jump in the sea, get in some cold
Yeah,
water
man.
or something. Like it's the best feeling ever. Yeah, so that was one of the big things I'd done. So I read through Wim Hof's book, and I took myself through all the breathing techniques every morning, um, which are quite intense. I've moved away from that now. I just focus more on like just controlled breathing and stuff like that. But cold exposure, so I'll either jump in the ice bath in the garden, or like every week I go down. Kirsty comes down with me, and like I'm trying to get like a couple of friends and like try and get a group of us once a week at least to just go down and jump in the sea.
And what does that experience do when you jump in the cold water?
Again, like all you're caring about at that time is like being in the water. Do you know what I mean? It keeps you quite present. But when you get out, like you just feel, if it's really cold and you've gone in there for a good few minutes, when you get out, you do feel pretty superhuman. Like it's a big charge up to your energies inside and stuff like that. Like it does feel really good.
And I think probably the most important part about when you do the ice or the ice bath or going into cold, what does it feel like to have two belly buttons?
Oh man, do you know what? When we was in the first lockdown, it was all like icy. Did it snow, or it was really icy or something over here?
It was cold, bro.
Anyway, so all the pebble beaches, like literally, were frozen like concrete. And I walked over and I jumped in there one day. I tell you what, there wasn't even a second belly button then. That was cold.
Play us a song, Jake.
Oh, sing us a song, Beth.
That's it.
What a poignant song.
Brother, thank you for blessing us today while we listen to the song. It's got such a great message. We talked about MJ before. Heal the world. Brother, your story is going to heal people. Just the way you were healed, bro. And are healing, because we all continue that process, bro. But thank you. Thank you, man. Heal the world. Make it a better place. For you and for me and the entire human race.
Ah, you ain't ready for that. Fantastic, Oos. Well, everybody, this is episode 6 of the Tapu 2. If you've enjoyed what you've seen, if you've enjoyed what you've watched, why don't you subscribe to us on YouTube, get hold of us, make contact. We're on Spotify as well. Just look up the Tapu 2. And a big thank you to our guest Max today. Oos, lovely seeing you as always. Another great show, and we'll see you next week, everybody.